The crystal chandelier in the private room was dazzling, and the table was laden with steaming delicacies, yet the bone plate in front of me remained untouched. Jason stood up with a wine glass, slurring his words as he fawned over the man at the head of the table. "Mr. Wang, this is my girlfriend, Emily. She's just come from the countryside and doesn't know the ropes. Please go easy on her." My fingers tightened around the hem of my skirt. 3 months ago, Jason found me doing odd jobs in the urban village, promising to give me a better life. Now it seems that the so-called better life was just using me as a stepping stone to climb the social ladder. Mr. Wang didn't even glance at me, keeping his eyes down as he clinked glasses with the person beside him. After several rounds of drinks, Jason suddenly pushed me toward Mr. Wang. "Emily, pour Mr. Wang a drink, you clueless thing." I staggered to steady myself, and just as I picked up the bottle, I heard a sharp smack. My cheek burned with pain, and my ears rang. Jason, after slapping me, he still wasn't satisfied and pointed at my nose, cursing, "You country bumpkin bitch, have no manners. How dare you touch Director Wang's wine? Is this seat even worthy of you?" The entire private room fell silent instantly, with everyone's gaze piercing into me like needles. Some wore expressions of anticipation for drama, others pretended not to see. And even President Wang's secretary let out a mocking laugh, covering my burning cheek. I slowly raised my head, my gaze traveled past Jason's ferocious face, landing on the dignified woman in the main seat, dressed in a Chanel suit. She is the client's CEO of this project, Margaret. Earlier, when Director Wang proposed a toast, Jason specifically emphasized that the entire East China region's projects depend on her favor. Taking a deep breath, I spoke softly yet clearly enough for everyone to hear. "Mom, where do you think I should be?" The word mom had barely left my lips when Jason's face turned deathly pale. He probably thought I'd been beaten stupid, reaching out to grab my hair. "Are you insane? How dare you call CEO Sue mom?" But before his hand could touch me, 2 black-suited bodyguards pinned him down firmly. Margaret finally set down her wine glass, removing her gold-rimmed glasses. She stared at me with those almond-shaped eyes so strikingly similar to mine for a full half-minute before suddenly tearing up. "Nyan Nyan," I forced a smile, twisting my lips into an expression uglier than crying. Nyan Nyan was my name before I was abducted, Emily, on that stormy night 16 years ago. The last thing I saw before the trafficker covered my mouth was my mother standing at the entrance of the villa, calling out anxiously. Jason was completely stunned. He struggled and shouted, "President Sue, this can't be, she's just a country girl." Margaret ignored him and quickly walked up to me, trembling as she touched my swollen cheek. "Does it hurt? Let mommy take a look." Her fingertips were ice cold, carrying the fragrance of high-end hand cream, gradually overlapping with the warm touch in my memory. I shook my head, but tears fell uncontrollably. "Mom, I've been looking for you for 16 years. Only then did Mr. Wang react, quickly trying to smooth things over. "So Miss Lin is President Sue's daughter. Jason, you punk, how dare you treat President Sue's daughter like this?" Jason collapsed on the ground, his face ashen. Margaret had no time to deal with him. She took off a shawl and wrapped it around me. "We'll talk at home," as I followed her out of the box. I heard Jason's cries and the sound of overturned chairs and tables behind me, but none of that mattered anymore. 16 years, I had finally found my way home. Settling into the back seat of the Rolls-Royce, Margaret clutched my hand tightly, repeatedly tracing the faint plum blossom birthmark on my wrist. "It's Mom's fault for not watching over you properly back then." I leaned against her shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of gardenia perfume, and suddenly felt that all the hardships of these 16 years seemed worth it. "Mom, I don't blame you." Outside the car window, neon lights flickered, reflecting in Margaret's teary eyes. She took out a black card from her bag. "Nyan Nyan, go buy some clothes first. Tomorrow, Mom will take you back to the company." Staring at the black card gleaming coldly, I suddenly remembered Jason's savings passbook hidden under the pillow, containing only 5,000 yuan. So this is the difference between heaven and earth. Little did I know then that this family reunion was just the beginning of another storm. By the time we returned to Margaret's villa, it was already 1 a.m. The European chandelier illuminated the living room as bright as day, with crystal ornaments casting delicate light spots on the walls. The housekeeper had already prepared hot water. Margaret personally drew my bath and rummaged through the walk-in closet to find a pile of unworn pajamas. They were all bought in your size. Mom always believed you'd come back. She placed the silk pajamas by the bathroom door, her voice choked with emotion. I touched the soft fabric, my eyes growing hot again. At my adoptive parents' house, I wore only hand-me-downs, patched and mended, yet still scolded for wasting cloth. After my shower, Margaret was sitting on the sofa flipping through a photo album. Seeing me, she waved me over. "Look, Nyan Nyan, this was taken on your 5th birthday. You insisted on climbing trees in your princess dress." The little girl in the photo had pigtails, her dress smeared with mud, yet she beamed with joy. "That was my last memory of home, when you were abducted back then. Your father and I searched for you like mad." Margaret's fingers traced the photo. "Your father worked himself to illness and passed away 3 years ago. He kept calling your name until his last breath." My heart felt as if something had clenched it tightly. Not only had I missed 16 years of life, but I had also lost forever the chance to make it up to my father. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "Silly child, I'm the one who should apologize." Margaret hugged me. "Tomorrow I'll take you to the company. From now on, half of the Sue Corporation will be yours." I froze. "I don't know how to do anything." "Mom will teach you." She patted my back. "You're the sole heir of the Sue family. All this was meant to be yours." The next morning, the driver dropped me off at the Sue Corporation building. The 40-story glass facade glittered in the sunlight, and the security guards at the entrance immediately saluted respectfully when they saw Margaret's car. As we stepped into the opulent lobby, all eyes turned toward me. Margaret held my hand and announced to everyone, "This is my daughter, Emily. She'll be the company's vice president from now on." Gasps of astonishment rose one after another. Some were amazed, some skeptical, while the red-haired girl from the admin department even rolled her eyes. The office on the top floor was larger than the rental apartment I used to live in, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the entire city skyline. Margaret slid a document toward me. "This is the company's basic information. Review it first, and I'll introduce you to department heads this afternoon." Running my hand over the smooth leather seat, I suddenly felt everything was surreal. Just yesterday I was worrying about affording a meal, and today I became the vice president of a listed company. At lunch in the staff cafeteria, the red-haired girl sat across from me with her tray. Her name was Natalie, the niece of the administration manager. "Vice President Sue, where did you work before?" Natalie said sarcastically while holding a piece of steak. I was about to speak when someone shouted, "Natalie!" Jasonis causing a scene downstairs. "Jason, how dare he show his face here?" I followed the crowd downstairs and saw Jason being stopped by security at the entrance. He was holding a sign that read, "Emilius Ungrateful. She deceived my feelings and my money. Emily, come out here." His eyes were bloodshot when he saw me. "I treated you so well, and you just dumped me after climbing the social ladder. How could you do this to me?" People around started pointing fingers and taking photos with their phones. Natalie whispered provocatively in my ear, "Vice President Sue, so this is your ex-boyfriend? Doesn't seem like much." I took a deep breath and walked over to the security guard. "Call the police." Jason didn't he expect me to be so ruthless? He froze for a moment before stomping and yelling, "Emily, you ungrateful wretch. I always knew country women were no good." The police arrived quickly, and as they dragged Jason away, he was still screaming wildly, "I won't let you get away with this." On the way back to the office, Natalie kept chattering behind me, "That kind of person deserves to be taught a lesson." But speaking of which, Deputy Sue, did you really live in the countryside before? I stopped walking and turned to look at her. "What if I did?" She took a step back, startled by my gaze, and forced a smile, saying, Nothing." During the afternoon meeting, the head of the marketing department gave a work report and mentioned the unfinished building project in the west of the city. Suddenly remembering something, I raised my hand and asked, "Wasn't that land originally the site of the Red Star textile factory?" Everyone was stunned. Margaret was also surprised. "How did you know?" "I lived in the ruins of a textile factory for 2 years," I explained, the groundwater there had excessive heavy metal levels, making it unsuitable for residential areas. The marketing director's expression changed. Impossible. Our tests showed it met standards. Was the testing company you hired called Hangshin? I asked. He nodded. I sneered. That company had its qualifications revoked long ago. Their inspection reports are all fake. As soon as these words were spoken, the meeting room erupted in chaos. Mr. Wang, the one from yesterday's dinner party, slammed the table and stood up. President Su, what on earth is going on? If there's really a problem, our initial investment of 50 million will go down the drain. Margaret's face darkened as well. Investigate. Check Hangshin Company's qualifications immediately. After the meeting, Margaret called me into her office. Nyan Nyan, how did you know about this? When I lived there, many of my co-workers developed strange illnesses. I recalled those uncles and aunts coughing up blood. Later, someone reported it, and we found out it was due to the groundwater issue. Margaret held my hand and said, "Thank goodness for you, or the company would have suffered heavy losses." Looking at the trust in her eyes, I suddenly felt a surge of strength throughout my body. It turns out all the hardships I endured weren't in vain. I just never expected that Jason's revenge would come so quickly. The next morning, as soon as I arrived at the company, I was cornered by a group of reporters in the lobby. "Miss Su, is it true that you were once an abducted girl? There are rumors that you were married in the countryside. Is that true? Jason claims you were dating multiple men at the same time. What do you have to say about that?" The camera flashes were blinding me, and the questions kept getting more and more pointed. The security guards couldn't even hold them back, and someone in the crowd pushed me, causing me to stumble and nearly fall. "Move, everyone, move aside." Margaret pushed through with her bodyguards, shielding me behind her. "My daughter's affairs are none of your business." "Security, get these people out of here." Amid the chaos, I saw Natalia standing not far away, secretly recording with her phone, a smug smile playing on her lips. Back in the office, Margaret immediately had the PR department handle it, but the online rumors had already spiraled out of control, with the hashtag #SuFamily Heiress's chaotic private life even trending on social media. It must be Sonwo did this. Margaret was trembling with anger. "I've already had the lawyers send a cease and desist letter." I scrolled through those vile comments, my fingers turning cold. Someone had dug up photos of me working in the urban slums, captioning them with titles like "Country Girl Climbing the Social Ladder." Others fabricated stories about me being trafficked and giving birth to children in the countryside. Ignore them. Margaret snatched my phone away. "The more you explain, the messier it gets. It'll blow over in a few days." But things didn't calm down as she had hoped. In the afternoon, the partner suddenly called, saying they wanted to suspend the collaboration on the West City project. Shortly after, several long-term clients also expressed their intention to reconsider their partnerships. "Someone is pulling strings behind the scenes." Margaret frowned as she looked at the report. "Besides Jason, there must be others who don't want you to stay in the company." I suddenly remembered Natalie's expression. "Mom, there's something off about Natalie from the admin department." Margaret nodded. "I've had my eye on her for a while. Her uncle is a company veteran who's been trying to get her to replace you." Just as we were speaking, Natalie knocked and entered, holding a document. "President Su, here's the agenda for tomorrow's board meeting. It requires your signature." As she placed the document on the table, I clearly saw the bracelet on her wrist, identical to the counterfeit one Jason had given me. While Margaret was signing, Natalie's kept darting toward me, unable to conceal her smugness. After she left, I stated with certainty, "She's colluding with Jason." Margaret sighed. "Deputy General Manager Lee has been with the company for many years and has deep roots. Without evidence, we can't touch him." I looked out the window, an idea forming in my mind. "Mom, give me 3 days, I'll find the evidence." For the next 2 days, I pretended to know nothing, arriving and leaving work on time each day, even actively asking Natalie for advice. She probably thought I was just a naive country girl who had never seen the world, letting her guard down around me and often slipping up in conversation. On the 3rd evening, I deliberately left a confidential document in the break room. The file contained a new proposal for the West City project. along with a photo of me and the boss of Shin Company, of course. It was photoshopped. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, I received a message from the private detective. Natalie had gone to the rental apartment where Jason was staying. I immediately called my bodyguard and rushed over. The door of the rental apartment was unlocked. When we entered, we happened to catch Natalie and Jason dividing money. On the table were printed chat logs, all evidence of their discussions on how to frame me. Take this 50,000 first, once we ruin Emily's reputation. The position at Sue Corporation will be mine. Natalie pushed a stack of cash toward him. Jason counted the money with a sleazy grin. Don't forget about me when the time comes. If it weren't for me providing her dirt from the countryside. Shut up. Natalie suddenly turned hostile. If those things get out, it won't do me any good either. I took out my phone and recorded everything. Jason was the first to notice me, dropping the money in shock. Why you? How did you get here? Natalie turned and saw me, her face instantly turning pale. She tried to run but was stopped by the bodyguards. Manager Lee, shall we have a chat? I raised my phone and shook the screen. If these things were posted online, do you think your uncle could still protect you? Natalie's legs went weak, and she almost knelt down. Vice President Sue, I was wrong. Please let me go. I ignored her and directly sent the video to Margaret. When the police arrived, Natalie was still sobbing and begging for my forgiveness. Jason looked dazed, probably never expecting to fall so completely. On the way back to the villa, Margaret called me, her voice filled with relief. Nyan Nyan, Mom always knew you could do it. As I watched the streets flash by outside the window, it suddenly struck me that so-called high society life was just another kind of battlefield. Little did I know, even greater trouble lay ahead. Natalie after being fired. The office became much quieter, but I could still sense the doubt in many people's eyes when they looked at me. Margaret said, don't mind their stares, prove yourself through results, and people will naturally respect you. So I threw myself entirely into work. During the day, I learned from various departments, staying up late at night to study materials. Whenever I encountered something I didn't understand, I'd jot it down and ask Margaret first thing the next morning. A month later, thanks to my persistence, the West City project was transformed into an eco-park. This not only resolved the groundwater issue but also secured government subsidies. The proposal received unanimous approval from the board, and those who had previously doubted me began looking at me differently. That evening, Margaret took me to a charity banquet. The event was attended by business elites, and Margaret introduced me to each of them one by one. This is the heir to the Lu Group, Ethan. She pointed to a man in a black suit with a cool demeanor. Ethan nodded at me, his eyes devoid of emotion. He appeared to be in his late 20s, with sharp features and an aura that kept others at a distance. Mr. Lu is young and accomplished. You young people should chat more. Margaret smiled and gently nudged me forward. I was just about to greet him when I heard Ethan say indifferently, President Sue, I have other matters to attend to. Excuse me. With that, he turned and left without even giving me another glance. Margaret looked somewhat awkward. This kid has always had this temperament since childhood. I didn't mind it much. After all, someone as privileged as him probably looks down on a parachuted-in like me. The banquet was halfway through when an elderly woman in a cheongsam approached me, holding a jade pendant. Young lady, is this yours? The pendant was heart-shaped, engraved with the character Nyan. It was the only thing I had with me when I was abducted, later taken and lost by my adoptive parents. It's mine, I exclaimed, gripping the old woman's hand excitedly. Where did you find it? The old woman sighed. 16 years ago, I found it at the train station. There was a little girl crying, saying it was given to her by her mother. Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. That little girl was me. The old lady's eyes also reddened. Good child, we've finally found your family. As we were talking, Ethan suddenly walked over. He looked at the jade pendant and frowned. Grandma, what's going on here? Ethan, this is the one I told you about back then. Before the old lady could finish, Ethan interrupted her. I understand. He looked at me with a complicated expression. Follow me. I followed him to the terrace, baffled. The evening breeze was slightly chilly as he handed me a glass of red wine. You're that little girl from back then. I nodded. You know me. I saw you when I was a child. He took a sip of wine. Your parents brought you to my family's birthday party. Only then did I remember. In the hazy memories, there seemed to be a little boy about my age who always followed me around. He was quiet, but whenever I fell, he would hand me a piece of candy. Are you that little boy who always wore blue overalls? I tentatively asked. Ethan paused for a moment, then a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. You still remember? Of course I remember. Your candies were orange-flavored, my favorite, I blurted out, then feeling slightly embarrassed, quickly took a sip of red wine to cover it up. He looked at me, his gaze softening considerably. After you went missing back then, my parents and yours searched for you together. So there's such a backstory. Looking at the glass in his hand, I suddenly remembered something. Then why were you so cold to me earlier? I thought you were. He paused. As if carefully choosing his words, one of those people trying to cling to the Sue family. I couldn't help but laugh. Now I'm the Sue family's heiress. Who would I need to cling to? He smiled too, the moonlight casting a softer, warmer glow on his face, making him seem less distant. I overthought it. As we were chatting, the old lady came over, took my hand, and said, "Good child, Ethan is just not good with words, don't take it to heart." If he hadn't insisted on taking you to buy candy back then, you wouldn't have. Grandma, Ethan interrupted her, his tone a bit urgent. I roughly understood what the old lady wanted to say. That afternoon 16 years ago, it was precisely because the little boy in blue overalls said the newly opened candy shop on the street corner had the best orange candy that I sneaked out. Only to be targeted by human traffickers. It's all in the past, I said with a smile. Maybe this was just fate. Ethan looked at me, his eyes revealing something more. He took an orange candy from his pocket, unwrapped it, and handed it to me. Still like it, the sweet citrus aroma spread across my tongue, exactly the same as the taste in my memory. I nodded. Yes. After the dinner, Ethan offered to drive me home. In the car, he suddenly said, "I've looked into Jason. He has someone behind him." My heart tightened. What do you mean? He's just a small-time thug, incapable of rallying so many reporters to corner you or buying that many internet trolls. He said, "Someone is using him to target you." I recalled those malicious glances in the company. Is it Vice President Lee's people? Possibly. But not just them. Ethan looked ahead. The Sue group is unstable internally. You've just returned, and many see you as a thorn in their side. I clenched my fists. I won't let them succeed. If you need help, you can come to me. He handed me a business card. I'm always here. Back at the villa, Margaret was still awake, sitting in the living room waiting for me. How did it go with Ethan? It went well. I didn't expect we knew each other as kids. I took out the jade pendant. Mom, do you remember this? Margaret burst into tears at the sight of the pendant. This is the protective charm your father got for you. It was Ethan's grandmother who found it and kept it all these years. I said. Margaret wiped her tears. The Liu family are old friends of ours. When your father's business failed, it was old Master Liu who helped us out. Ethan is a good boy. You too, Mom, I interrupted, my cheeks flushing slightly. We just met. Margaret smiled and patted my hand. I was just making conversation. By the way, there's a family gathering tomorrow. Your aunt and the others will be there. You should come meet them. I froze for a moment. Aunt, I have an aunt. You have a younger aunt named Linda. She was studying abroad and only returned after you went missing, Margaret said. She's straightforward and might say harsh things, but don't take it to heart. I nodded, but inside I felt uneasy. Back in the countryside, my foster parents' relatives often bullied me, and I wasn't sure if this aunt I'd never met would like me. The next afternoon, Linda did indeed arrive. She was dressed in designer clothes, with flawless makeup, and when she saw me, her eyes were full of scrutiny. So this is the niece they found. She looked me up and down with a hint of disdain in her tone. Not bad looking, but a bit rustic. Margaret quickly tried to smooth things over. Nyen just got back. She's not used to things yet. Linda ignored her and walked straight to the sofa to sit down, picking up an apple to peel. I heard you stayed in the countryside for 16 years. That must have been tough. But then again, life in the countryside may be hard. But it's pure. Unlike the city, where people's hearts are complicated. I sensed the underlying meaning in her words but chose not to respond. She was peeling an apple when she suddenly said, "By the way, what do you plan to do with those shares left by Big Brother back then?" Margaret frowned. "What do you mean, what to do?" "They all belong to Nyan Nyan, sister-in-law." "You're being biased." Linda put down the apple knife. "Big Brother still has a sister like me. Shouldn't his shares include a portion for me?" Only then did I realize she hadn't come to acknowledge family ties. She came to fight for the inheritance. Margaret's face darkened. "Manly, your brother doted on you the most back then. But these shares were specifically left for Nyen Nyen as per his instructions. No one can touch them." Now that she's back, let's see if she has what it takes to hold on to these shares. Linda stood up. "I have other matters to attend to. So I'll take my leave." As she reached the door, she suddenly turned back and glanced at me. "Little girl, don't think everything will be fine just because your mother is protecting you. The waters of Sioux Corporation run deep." After she left, Margaret sighed. "Nyen Nyen, I'm sorry you had to witness such an embarrassing scene." "Mom, it's okay." I looked at her. "I'll protect what's mine." Margaret smiled with relief. "Good, Mom believes in you." That evening, I received Ethan's message. "Are you free tomorrow? I'll take you somewhere." The next morning, Ethan came to pick me up. He was driving an SUV, dressed in casual clothes, shedding some of his usual business seriousness and looking more sunny. "Where are we going?" I asked while fastening my seatbelt. "You'll know when we get there." He smiled mysteriously. The car drove out of the city and headed toward the outskirts. After about an hour, it stopped in front of a temple. The temple wasn't large but had an ancient charm. A few incense sticks were burning in the censer at the entrance, their thin smoke curling upward. "What are we doing here?" I asked in confusion. "My grandmother said the place where she found your jade pendant wasn't far from this temple," Ethan said. "We might find some clues here." My heart skipped a beat as I followed him into the temple. The temple was quiet, with only a few monks sweeping the grounds. Ethan approached the abbot and explained our purpose. The abbot pondered for a moment. 16 years ago, I do have some recollection. There was indeed a little girl crying nearby that day, saying she couldn't find her mother. Later, a man came and took her away." "What kind of man?" I quickly asked. "In his 40s, not very tall, with a scar on his face." Abbott recalled. "Oh. And he was wearing a black hat that covered half his face." A scar on his face. I suddenly remembered old Wang next door to my adoptive parents' house. He had a scar on his face and always wore a black hat. When I was little, I asked him how he got the scar, and he would glare at me fiercely, saying he'd sell me if I asked again. "Abbott, do you remember which direction that man went?" Ethan asked. Abbott pointed to the west. "Seems like he headed towards the mountain." After thanking Abbott, we walked toward the western mountain. The path was rough, and Ethan kept walking ahead of me, occasionally turning back to give me a hand. "Be careful." His hand was warm, and when he held mine, I felt a strange sensation in my heart. After walking for about half an hour, we arrived in front of a cave. The cave wasn't large, and there were signs of disturbance at the entrance. "Shall we go in and take a look?" Ethan asked. I nodded and followed him into the cave. It was very dark inside. Ethan turned on his phone's flashlight, illuminating the surroundings. In the corner, there were piles of old clothes and shoes, seemingly left behind many years ago. "Look at this." Ethan picked up a small cloth doll with one arm broken, embroidered with the character Nyan. "It's mine. This was my favorite doll as a child, and I was holding it when I was abducted. This must be where the traffickers hid me," I said excitedly. Ethan searched the area carefully and suddenly said, "Look at this." He picked up a crumpled note with an address and a name written on it. "Old Jolu, no, 38, Hongchi Village." Hongchi Village, that's the village where my foster parents live. Old Jolu seems to be a bachelor in the village. "Do you know this old Jolu?" Ethan asked. I thought for a moment. I have a vague impression of him. He didn't talk much and always kept to himself. Maybe he knows something. Ethan tucked the note away. "Let's go check out Hongchi Village." On the way back, I felt both nervous and excited. After 16 years, I was finally getting closer to the truth. By the time we reached Hongchi Village, it was already afternoon. The village looked just as before, adobe houses, dirt roads, with the smell of pig manure lingering in the air, we found number 38. A dilapidated adobe house with its door slightly ajar. Ethan knocked on the door. Anyone there? No one answered. We pushed the door open and walked in. The room was dark, filled with a musty smell. An old man lay on the kang, covered by a grimy blanket whose original color was unrecognizable, coughing. "Are you old Jolu?" I asked. The old man raised his head, his face covered with wrinkles and his eyes cloudy. Seeing us, he asked warily, "Who are you? Would like to ask you about someone." Ethan said, 16 years ago, did you happen to meet a little girl who was abducted?" Old Jolu's eyes flickered for a moment before he shook his head. "I don't know. I don't recognize any little girl." "What about this?" Ethan pulled out the note. Old Jolu saw the note and his face instantly changed. Struggling to get up from the kang. How did you find this place? Just tell us the truth, and we won't disturb you," I said. Old Jolu sighed and slumped back onto the kang. "It's been so many years, what's there left to say? It's very important to me." I looked at him. I was that little girl. Old Jolu was stunned, scrutinizing me carefully before suddenly bursting into tears. You've grown so big. Was it you who brought me here back then?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes. But I was forced to do it." "Who forced you?" "It was the village's Scarface. He had a scar on his face," Old Jolu said. "That day he brought you to me and gave me 500 yuan, asking me to look after you for a few days until the heat died down, saying he'd come back for you. So it was that old man Wang after all." "What happened next?" "Later he never came back, so I gave you to the old Lin family at the east end of the village, your adoptive parents," Old Jolu said. "I had no choice. I'm a bachelor and couldn't afford to raise a child." "Where is Scarface now?" Ethan asked. Old Jolu shook his head. "No idea. About 5 years ago. He suddenly disappeared and never came back." My heart sank. Another dead end. Span. "Did he ever mention where he came from, or if he had any relatives?" I asked persistently. Old Jolu thought for a moment. "I think I heard him mention he has a younger brother working in the city, but I don't know exactly where." "Thank you." I took out some money from my wallet and handed it to Old Jolu. "Take this. Buy yourself something to eat." Old Jolu waved his hand. No, I wronged you." "How can I take your money?" Ethan placed the money on the kang. "Take it. This is her way of showing kindness." As we walked out of Old Jolu's house, the setting sun painted the village golden. Looking toward the direction of my adoptive parents' home in the distance, I suddenly felt the urge to visit. Not long after I left, my adoptive parents passed away in an accident. They weren't kind to me, but they did raise me for 16 years. When I reached the doorstep of my adoptive parents' home, the door was locked. A neighbor spotted me and asked in surprise, "Is that you? Girl, you're back?" "Yeah, just came to take a look," I replied. "Your foster parents passed away last year, and the house has been empty since then." The neighbor said, "Oh, right. Before they left, they asked me to give this to you." The neighbor went home and brought me a small box. I opened it to find a photo and a letter inside. The photo showed me as a child, wearing patched clothes. With a bright smile on my face, the letter was written in my foster parents' shaky handwriting. "WN, we know we've treated you poorly, and we're sorry. The truth is, we've known all along that you're not our biological daughter. When Scarface brought you to us, we already knew. We didn't have children of our own, so we wanted to keep you. Later, when we saw you always trying to find your birth mother, we deliberately treated you badly, afraid you'd leave. Now that we're gone, you must live well and find your real mother." Tears welled up instantly. I always thought they treated me poorly because I was bought, never imagining there was another layer to this reason. Ethan handed me a tissue. "Don't be sad, they did love you, just expressed it the wrong way." I nodded, carefully putting away the photo and letter. "Let's go." On the way back, I kept thinking about Scarface's brother. Maybe if I find his brother, I can find Scarface and finally learn who ordered him to kidnap me all those years ago. "Don't worry, I'll help you investigate." Ethan seemed to read my thoughts. Since Scarface's brother is working in the city, there must be some leads. I looked at him, feeling warmth in my heart. "Thank you. We're friends, aren't we?" He smiled. "A friend. I hope we can be more than just friends." Back home, Margaret noticed I was in low spirits and asked what was wrong. I told her about what happened today. That Scarface, I think I have some vague memory of him, Margaret said with a frown. Back when your father's company had a driver, also surnamed Wang, with a scar on his face, he suddenly resigned later. Really? I asked excitedly. I'm not sure, we'll need to check, Margaret said. Tomorrow I'll have HR pull out the old files to take a look. If Scarface really was Dad's former driver, could his kidnapping of me be related to someone at the company? A sudden bad feeling washed over me. Early the next morning, Margaret summoned the HR department's Mr. Johnson to her office. Mr. Johnsonis, a long-time employee of the company, having been with the Sue Group for over 20 years, when he heard Margaret mention checking the driver records from 16 years ago, he paused. President Sue, records from that long ago might be impossible to find now. Try your best to find it, it's very important, Margaret said. Mr. Johnson nodded. All right, I'll check the archives. After he left, I looked at Margaret. Mom, do you think that driver could be Scarface? Hard to say. Margaret shook her head. Back then, there were several drivers with the surname Wang in the company, and those with scars on their faces. I can't quite remember. Around noon, Mr. Johnson returned, holding a yellowed file folder in his hand. President Sue, I found it. He handed the folder to Margaret. There was indeed a driver named George 16 years ago, with a scar on his face, who was fired for fighting. George, Scarface, it might be the same person. I quickly took the folder and opened it. Inside was a registration form and a photo. The man in the photo was in his 40s, not very tall, and sure enough, had a scar on his face. Exactly as Abathad described. That's him, I exclaimed excitedly. The registration form listed his home address and emergency contact. His younger brother David, who was working at a construction site in the eastern part of the city. David, I looked at the name, feeling a surge of excitement. We've found his brother. Ethan quickly found David's whereabouts. He was still working at that construction site, though he had been promoted to a small contractor. In the afternoon, Ethan and I went to that construction site. The site was dusty, with workers bustling everywhere. When we found David, he was directing workers to move bricks, wearing a dirty t-shirt with sweat all over his face. Are you David? Ethan stepped forward and asked. David turned around, saw us, and asked warily, who are you? What do you want? We want to ask about your brother George, I said. David's expression changed instantly. I don't have a brother. You've got the wrong person. We know your brother is Scarface. Ethan took out a photo of George. 16 years ago, he abducted a little girl. Now that girl has returned and wants to ask him about what happened back then. David's eyes flickered for a moment before he lowered his head and said, I don't know what you're talking about. My brother died long ago. Dead? When did it happen? I asked. 5 years ago. He died of illness. David's voice trembled slightly. I could tell from his flustered expression that he was definitely lying. David, we've already checked. Your brother didn't die 5 years ago, he just went missing, Ethan said. If you tell us where he is, we can let you off the hook. But if you keep hiding the truth, don't blame us for being harsh. David clenched his teeth and remained silent for a long time. Actually, we don't want to make things difficult for you either. I looked at him. We just want to know who ordered your brother to kidnap me back then. David sighed. Sigh, it's been so many years since that happened. If I tell you, will you let me go? As long as you tell the truth, I promise, I said, my gaze fixed intently on David, not wanting to miss even the slightest change in his expression. David wiped the sweat from his face, glanced around, and lowered his voice. The one who instructed my brother to do this back then was a deputy general manager in the company. Which deputy manager? My heart tightened as I pressed for details. I think his surname was Liu. David frowned as he tried to recall. I don't remember clearly, but I just remember my brother saying that man gave him a large sum of money to kidnap you from the Sue family and dump you in some rural area, just as long as you never returned to the Sue family. Deputy manager Liu. I searched my mind for people in the company and suddenly thought of someone. Leon, a veteran of the company who now heads the logistics department. He always has a smile on his face and seems quite friendly. Is his name Leon? I asked. David nodded. Yes. Yes, that's the name. My brother said that guy had a grudge against your dad. apparently over a project where your dad took credit for his work. He's been holding a grudge ever since." I was stunned. How could Dad have stolen someone else's credit? There must be some misunderstanding here. "Where is your brother now?" Ethan asked. David sighed. "He ran away 5 years ago, saying he was afraid of retaliation from that person. I don't know where he went, only that before he left, he said if someone ever came looking for him to ask about what happened back then, to hand this over." He pulled a small USB drive from his pocket and handed it to me. "This is what my brother left me. He said there's evidence on it." I took the USB drive, feeling a mix of emotions. I never expected things to be this complicated, involving people within the company. "Thank you," I said to David. "We won't tell anyone it was you who told us." David nodded and immediately started directing the workers again, as if nothing had just happened. On the way back, I kept holding onto that USB drive, feeling both nervous and excited inside. "Don't worry, I'm here." Ethan noticed my unease, held my hand and said, looking at him. I felt much more at ease. Back at the company, Ethan and I found a computer and inserted the USB drive. There was only one video file inside. When I opened the video, the footage was somewhat blurry, showing scenes from 16 years ago. In the video, George was talking to a man in a secluded alley. The man had his back to the camera, and all that could be seen was him wearing a gray suit. "Don't worry, as long as you kidnap that little girl, you'll get your money." The man's voice was slightly hoarse. "Vice President Liu, if this succeeds, don't forget what you promised me," George said. "Don't worry, once the Su family is in chaos, I'll be the boss of the company." "How could I forget your share then?" The video ended here. Although the man's face wasn't visible, judging by his voice and George's way of addressing him, it was definitely Leon. "So it was him after all," I said through gritted teeth. "Now we have evidence, we can report to the police," Ethan said. I shook my head. "No, reporting now would only alert him. We need to find an opportunity to completely ruin him." Ethan nodded. "You're right. Let's keep it quiet for now and wait for the right opportunity to bring it up." Over the next few days, I went to work as usual on the surface, but secretly kept an eye on Leon. He still wore that smiling face and treated me politely. You'd never guess he was such a ruthless person. That afternoon, the company held a board meeting to discuss a new project. Leon proposed a plan during the meeting that seemed perfect, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Deputy General Manager Liu, isn't the cost estimate in this plan a bit low?" I deliberately asked. Leon paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "Deputy General Manager Su, you've just returned and might not be fully aware of the company's situation. We've studied this plan for a long time, and the cost estimate is reasonable." "Is that so?" I pulled out a document, but I checked, and the price of raw materials needed for this project has risen significantly recently. "With your current budget, it's far from enough." Leon looked somewhat uneasy. "Maybe I didn't update the data in time. I'll go back and make some changes." After the meeting, Ethan approached me. I looked into Leon, and he's been getting very close to someone named Mr. Chong recently. "That Mr. Chong is the vice president of our competitor's company. Could they be colluding?" I asked. "Very likely," Ethan said. "I suspect Leon not only wants to harm you but also plans to leak company secrets to the competitor." My heart sank. "Then we need to quickly find a way to stop him." "I've already arranged for someone to keep an eye on him," Ethan said. "As soon as he makes a move, we'll have evidence against him." In the evening, I had dinner with Margaret and told her about Leon. Margaret looked grim after hearing this. "I never thought old Liu was that kind of person. Back then, your father trusted him enough to put him in charge of the logistics department." "Mom, we have evidence now. We can't let him get away with this," I said. Margaret nodded. "You're right, but we can't act rashly. We need to wait for the right opportunity. Ethan and I are already investigating him. I believe we'll have results soon," I said. Margaret looked at me and smiled warmly. "Nyan Nyan, you've grown up and formed your own opinions. Mom believes in you." Over the next few days, Ethan and I kept a close eye on Leon's movements. Finally, we discovered that he had arranged to meet that Mr. Chong at a hotel. "This is our chance," Ethan said. "Let's see what they're really up to." We arrived at the hotel early, booked a room next to their meeting place, and installed listening devices. At 8 p.m., Leon and Mr. Chang arrived at the room on time. Vice President Liu, have you brought the items? Mr. Chang's voice came through. I've brought them, Leon said. This is the core data of the Su Group's new project. With this, your company is sure to secure the project. Excellent. Vice President Liu truly keeps his word, Mr. Chang said. Here's your money. 5 million. Count it if you like. No need to count. I trust Mr. Chang, Leon said. By the way, when do you plan to deal with that Emily? No rush, Mr. Chang said. She's gaining more trust in the company now. We need to wait until she has full control of the company's power before delivering the fatal blow. Then, the Su Group will be ours. Okay, I'll listen to you, Leon said. Hearing this, Ethan and I exchanged glances, both seeing anger in each other's eyes. Let's go, Ethan said. We have enough evidence. Back at the company, we handed over the contents from the bug and the video from that USB drive to Margaret. Margaret trembled with anger after watching it. Leon, this traitor. I will make him pay. The next day, Margaret called an emergency board meeting and exposed Leon's crimes to everyone. Leon initially tried to deny it, but faced with irrefutable evidence, he had no choice but to admit his guilt. In the end, Leon was fired and taken away by the police for leaking company secrets and suspected kidnapping. With Leon dealt with, the atmosphere in the company improved significantly. Those who had ill intentions toward me no longer dared to act out. That evening, Ethan and I had dinner together to celebrate the resolution of the matter. Thank you, Ethan, I said. Without you, I might still be unaware of the truth. We're friends, it's only natural, Ethan said with a smile. But I hope we can be more than just friends. I froze for a moment, my cheeks instantly flushing red. Ethan looked at me with gentle eyes. Nyan nyan, I've liked you since we were very young. After you disappeared back then, I kept blaming myself and searching for you. Now that you're back, I don't want to lose you again. My heart was racing wildly, meeting his sincere gaze. I nodded. Me too. Ethan smiled and held my hand tightly. I knew that despite all the hardships in the past, the future would surely be beautiful. Since that night when Ethan and I confirmed our relationship, we've been in touch more frequently. Every morning, he would bring me a cup of my favorite soy milk, and if he didn't work overtime in the evening, he would ask me out for dinner. People at the company noticed our relationship and would often tease us about it. Vice President Su, President Liu is really good to you, Eric from the marketing department said with a smile. My cheeks flushed slightly, but I remained silent. Ethan said generously, of course, I have to treat my girlfriend well. Hearing the word girlfriend, my heart felt sweet and warm. That day, Ethan said he wanted to take me somewhere. Where are we going? I asked curiously. You'll know when we get there, Ethan said mysteriously. He drove me to an amusement park. Why did you bring me here? I asked in surprise. I promised to take you to an amusement park when we were kids, but never got the chance. Today I'm making it up to you, Ethan said with a smile. My heart warmed. I never thought he'd still remember our childhood promise. We rode the carousel, roller coasters, and Ferris wheel together, having so much fun. When the Ferris wheel reached its highest point, Ethan suddenly embraced me and kissed me. His kiss was gentle, carrying the sweetness of orange candy. I closed my eyes, feeling his love, my heart overflowing with happiness. It was already late when we left the amusement park. Ethan walked me home. Thank you for today, I said. Silly. No need to be polite with me. Ethan lightly tapped my nose. Get some rest early. See you tomorrow. I nodded, watching his car disappear into the night before turning to go home. Back home, Margaret saw the happiness on my face and asked with a smile, "Did you go out with Ethan?" "Yeah," I nodded. "Ethan is a good kid, and he truly cares about you," Margaret said. "I hope you can be happy." "I know, Mom," I said. In the days that followed, my relationship with Ethan grew stronger. We would work overtime together, watch movies together, go shopping together, just like any ordinary couple. One day, Ethan said his grandmother wanted to meet me. "What? Meet your grandmother?" I was a little nervous. "Don't be nervous, my grandmother really likes you," Ethan reassured me. I nodded, still feeling a bit uneasy inside. On the weekend, Ethan took me to his home. The Liu family's villa was enormous and luxuriously decorated. Ethan's grandmother saw me and warmly took my hand. "Nyan Nyan, come here and let grandma take a look at you," the old lady said with a smile. "What a beautiful girl you are." "Hello, grandma," I said, feeling a little shy. "Good child, come sit down," the old lady said, pulling me to sit and offering me lots of fruit. Ethan's parents were also very kind and warmly welcomed me. We had dinner together and talked a lot. Ethan's grandmother also told me many funny stories from Ethan's childhood, which made me laugh out loud. When leaving the Liu family, the old lady held my hand and said, "Nyan Nyan, Ethan may sometimes be a bit quiet, but he truly cares for you. As long as you two are happy, I can rest easy." "Grandma, I understand. We will be happy," I said. On the way back, Ethan asked me, "What do you think of my family?" "That's great. Grandma is very kind, and the uncles and aunties are very warm too," I said. Ethan smiled. "I told you they'd like you." I looked at him, my heart overflowing with happiness. I felt like I had finally found my own happiness. The peaceful days didn't last long before turmoil arose again. That day, rumors suddenly spread in the company, saying that I was with Ethan to take advantage of the Liu family's influence and swallow up the Su group. At first, I didn't pay much attention, thinking these rumors would soon collapse on their own. But unexpectedly, the rumors became more and more outrageous, with some even claiming that my abduction years ago was orchestrated by Margaretto monopolize the Su family's wealth. These rumors hit Margaretha, and she was so angry that she fell ill. "Mom, don't be upset, these are all rumors, and we'll get to the bottom of it," I comforted her. "I'm fine, just feeling a bit disheartened," Margaret said. "I've been with the company for so many years, and I never thought people would see me this way." "Someone must be scheming behind the scenes," I said. "I will definitely find out who did this." Ethan was also furious. "This is too much. How dare they say such things about you and your aunt? Don't worry, I'll help you investigate." We began tracing the source of the rumors and discovered they were all sent from an anonymous email account, which had been distributed to many people in the company. This email's IP address is from overseas, making it a bit tricky to track, Ethan said. "Could it be Leon's accomplice?" I asked. "It's possible," Ethan said. "I'll try to think of another way." Just as we were at a loss, I received a package containing a photo and a letter. The photo showed a stranger, and the letter read, "Want to know the truth? Meet at the abandoned factory in the southern part of the city tomorrow at 3 p.m. I looked at the photo and the letter, feeling both scared and eager to uncover the truth. "I'll go with you," Ethan said. "I can't let you take the risk alone." I nodded. "All right," at 3 p.m. the next afternoon. Ethan and I arrived punctually at the abandoned factory in the southern part of the city. The factory was dilapidated, covered in dust and trash everywhere. "Is anyone there?" Ethan called out. No one responded. We cautiously moved forward when suddenly, several figures in black rushed out from the corner and surrounded us. "Who are you? What do you want?" Ethan shielded me behind him and asked warily. "Miss Su, our boss wants to see you," said the leader of the men in black. "Who is your boss?" I asked. "You'll find out when we get there," the man in black replied. "Come with us." We were taken by the men in black to a room in the factory. The room was dim, with only a single light shining, illuminating a man sitting on a chair. The man had his back to us, so we couldn't see his face clearly. "Who are you? Why are you looking for me?" I asked. The man slowly turned around, and when I saw his face, I froze. It was actually Jason. "Didn't expect this, Emily," Jason said with a smile. "We meet again. Was it you behind all this?" I asked angrily. "So what if it was?" Jason said. "After what you did to me back then, I'm going to make sure you lose everything." "You're insane," I said. "I'm crazy. You're the one who drove me to this," Jason said angrily. "I could have lived a peaceful life, but because of you, I've ended up like this." "You brought this upon yourself," Ethan replied. "Don't get too cocky, Ethan," Jason said. "Today, I'll make sure both of you stay here forever." With that, he gave a meaningful glance to the men in black. The black-clad men immediately charged towards us. Ethan pushed me aside and fought with the black-clad men. He was quite skilled, but there were too many of them, and he gradually began to struggle. I watched as Ethan was being beaten, feeling anxious and wanting to help, but one of the black-clad men grabbed me. "Let me go," I struggled and shouted. At that moment, the sound of police sirens came from outside. Jason and the man in black panicked upon hearing the sirens. "Let's go," Jason said. The man in black released me and followed Jason, trying to escape through the back door, but it was too late. The police rushed in and arrested them all. It turned out that Ethan had anticipated the danger and called the police in advance. Jason was still screaming madly as the police took him away. "Emily, I won't let you get away with this." I watched him being taken away and finally felt relieved. Ethan walked over to me and hugged me. "It's okay now, don't be afraid." I leaned into his embrace, feeling his warmth, and nodded. Although we had gone through a dangerous situation, I knew that as long as Ethan was by my side, I wouldn't be afraid of anything. After Jason was arrested, the rumors in the company quickly died down. Margaret's illness gradually improved. One day, Margaret called me into her office and said she had something to tell me. "Nyan Nyan, there's something your mother has been keeping from you, and now it's time to tell you," Margaret said. "When you were abducted back then, it actually had nothing to do with Leon." I was stunned. "How could that be? Didn't we have evidence?" "Those pieces of evidence are fake," Margaret said. "They were deliberately fabricated by Leon to frame someone else." "Then who actually did it?" I asked. "It was your aunt." "Linda," Margaret said. I was stunned. "Aunt, how could it be her? After your father passed away, he left behind a substantial inheritance and company shares," Margaret said. "Your aunt has always wanted to get her hands on them, which is why she arranged to have you kidnapped, so she could rightfully inherit your father's assets and shares. How could she be so heartless?" I said in disbelief. "People's hearts are hidden behind their ribs," Margaret sighed. "All these years, she's been secretly undermining me, trying to force me out of the company. If I hadn't been on guard against her, she might have succeeded long ago." "What should we do now?" I asked. "I've already gathered evidence against her and am ready to report to the police," Margaret said. "We can't let her get away with this anymore." I nodded. "Yes, she must pay for what she's done." Margaret placed a stack of evidence in front of me, including Linda and George's call records, transfer receipts, and some documents she had secretly manipulated. "I've been collecting these piece by piece over the years," Margaret said. "It took considerable effort to uncover this evidence." "Mom, you've worked hard," I said. "As long as we can restore justice for you, no amount of hardship is too much," Margaret said. The next day, we took the evidence to the police station. The police quickly launched an investigation into Linda. Linda tried to deny it at first, but faced with irrefutable evidence, she had no choice but to admit her guilt. It turned out that back then, Linda had approached George and offered him a large sum of money to kidnap me, all in order to seize the Sue family's fortune. She never expected I would be found 16 years later. All these years, she never gave up her scheme to take over the Sue family's assets. She secretly sabotaged Margaret multiple times and even colluded with Leon to drive both Margaret and me out of the company. In the end, Linda was arrested by the police on charges of kidnapping and embezzlement. Hearing this news, I felt a mix of emotions. Even though she was my aunt, I could never forgive her for what she did to me. Margaret patted my shoulder. "Nyan Nyan, don't overthink it. She brought this upon herself." "I know," I said. "It's just a bit regrettable. If she had behaved properly, we could have gotten along like family." "Some people will never be satisfied," Margaret said. "All we can do is protect ourselves and live our own lives well." I nodded, feeling suddenly enlightened. Resolved Linda. The company finally settled into complete tranquility. Together with Margaret, we worked hard to manage the company in perfect order. Ethan also frequently came to the company to see me, sometimes helping me with work-related challenges, other times just keeping me company for a chat. Our relationship grew increasingly stable, and both sets of parents were very satisfied with our bond. One day, Ethan suddenly said to me, "Nyan Nyan, let's get married." I froze for a moment, staring at the ring in his hand, too overwhelmed to speak. "Will you marry me?" Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with anticipation. I nodded vigorously. "I do." Ethan happily slipped the ring onto my finger, then held me tightly in his arms. "Wonderful. Nyan Nyan, I can finally marry you," he said. I leaned into his embrace, feeling his warmth. my heart overflowing with happiness. We decided to hold our wedding in a month. The wedding preparations were tedious, but both Ethan and I enjoyed every moment. Together, we picked out the wedding dress, decorated the venue, invited friends and family. Every day was filled with anticipation. Margaret was also very happy, helping us with everything, always wearing a smile on her face. Nyan nyan, as long as you can find your own happiness, Mom will be at ease, Margaret said. Mom, I'll be happy. I said, we'll come to see you often in the future. Good, good, Margaret said with a smile. Ethan's family was also very supportive of our wedding, especially his grandmother, who looked forward to the wedding every day. Nyan nyan, you must dress beautifully on the wedding day, the old lady said, holding my hand. I will, Grandma, I replied. On the wedding day, the sun was shining, and the sky was a brilliant blue. Standing in front of the mirror in my pure white wedding dress, I looked at my reflection, feeling both nervous and excited. Margaret walked over and adjusted my veil. Nyan nyan, you look so beautiful today. Mom, thank you, I said, my eyes slightly moist. Silly child, why are you crying? Margaret said, today is your special day. I nodded, wiped away my tears, and followed Margaret out of the room. The wedding venue was beautifully decorated with romance, filled with flowers and balloons everywhere. All the relatives and friends had arrived, their faces beaming with blessings. Ethan stood on the stage in a sharp suit, his eyes filled with love as he watched me walk toward him. Step by step, I walked toward him, my heart overflowing with happiness. Under the witness of the priest, we exchanged rings and made lifelong vows to each other. I do, I do. Just 3 simple words, yet they contain all the love and trust we have for each other. After the wedding ceremony, everyone came to congratulate us. Emily, Ethan, wishing you a happy marriage and eternal unity, said Eric from the marketing department. Thank you, I said. Vice President Sue, congratulations to you. Other colleagues in the company also congratulated me one after another. I and Ethan smiled and thanked them, our hearts filled with gratitude. In the evening, Ethan and I sat in our new home, looking at each other, and both smiled. Today was really happy, I said. Me too, Ethan said. Being able to marry you is the luckiest thing in my life. Being able to marry you is the luckiest thing in my life, I said. Ethan held me tightly and whispered in my ear, Nyan nyan, I love you too, I said. We embraced each other, feeling the warmth and love between us. I knew that from this day forward, we would walk through life hand in hand, facing any difficulties together. Life after marriage was sweet. I and Ethan live in the wedding house prepared by his parents for us. The house is spacious and decorated very warmly. Every morning, we wake up together, have breakfast together, and then go to work together. After work in the evening, we cook together, watch movies, chat. Life is simple yet happy. On weekends, we visit both sets of parents, spend time chatting with them, and share a meal. Margaret was very pleased to see us living so happily. Nyan nyan, Ethan is so good to you, Margaret said. Yes, he treats me very well, I said, my face glowing with happiness. That's good, Margaret said. Live well together in the future. I will, Mom, I said. Ethan's parents also liked me very much and treated me as their own daughter. Nyan nyan, don't work too hard, take care of your health, Ethan's mother said. I know, Auntie, I said, just tell me what you'd like to eat, and I'll make it for you, she said. Thanks, Mom, I replied. At the company, although Ethan and I are married, we maintain a professional attitude at work. We discuss work-related issues together, offer each other suggestions, and grow collectively. Our colleagues often say we're a match made in heaven. Not only do we have a great relationship, but we're also a golden team at work. That day, Ethan and I were discussing a project in the office when Margaret suddenly walked in. Mom, what brings you here? I asked. I have something to tell you, Margaret said with a smile on her face. What is it, Mom? Ethan asked. I'm planning to retire, Margaret said. Both Ethan and I were stunned. Mom, you're still young. Why are you retiring already? It's time for me to take a break, Margaret said. I'll leave the company to you. I believe you'll manage it well. Mom, I hesitated a bit. Don't worry, you're both very capable people, Margaret said. I believe in you. I exchanged a glance with Ethan and nodded. Mom, we won't let you down, I believe in you. Margaret said, all right, I won't disturb your work anymore. I'll take my leave now. After Margaret left, both Ethan and I felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier on our shoulders. We must work hard and manage the company well, not letting Mom down. I said, yes, let's work together, Ethan said, holding my hand. In the following days, Ethan and I worked even harder. We developed new strategies, expanded into new business areas, and the company's performance kept improving. The employees also trusted and supported us more and more. On this day, the company held its annual review meeting, and Ethan and I stood on stage to report the company's performance over the past year. When we announced that the company's profits had increased by 50% compared to last year, the audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. Thank you for everyone's hard work and support, I said. Without your dedication, the company wouldn't have achieved today's success. In the new year, we will continue to strive and create better development opportunities for everyone, taking the company to even greater heights, Ethan said. The audience erupted into enthusiastic applause once again. Looking at the employees below the stage, my heart swelled with gratitude. I knew that the company's achievements today were inseparable from everyone's hard work and support. In the second year of our marriage, I became pregnant. When I showed Ethan's pregnancy test and shared the news, he was overjoyed like a child, spinning me around in his arms several times. Great, Nyan Nyan, we're going to have a baby, he said. Yes, I replied with a smile, my face glowing with happiness. We shared the good news with both sets of parents, and they were all overjoyed. Wonderful, I'm going to be a grandmother, Margaret said, her eyes slightly moist. I'm going to be a grandmother too, Ethan's mother said, smiling from ear to ear. Take good care of yourself from now on. Don't overwork, Ethan's father said. I understand, Uncle, I said. After becoming pregnant, Ethan became even more considerate towards me. He would prepare nutritious meals for me every day, accompany me on walks, tell me stories, taking care of me in every possible way. My colleagues at the company also take good care of me, not letting me do any heavy or tiring work. Vice President Sue, you're now a priority protection target. Let us handle these tasks, Eric said. Thank you, I said. As my belly grows bigger day by day, my body becomes increasingly cumbersome, and sometimes I feel very tired. But as long as I think about the baby inside me, I feel everything is worth it. Ethan lies on my belly every night, listening for the baby's movements. The baby kicked me again today, he said with a happy smile. He must be a mischievous little one, I replied. We've picked out many names for the baby, both for boys and girls, but haven't decided on one yet. We'll give the baby a beautiful name after they're born, Ethan said. Okay, I replied. As my due date approached, I was admitted to the hospital. Ethan stayed by my side the whole time, holding my hand and cheering me on. Nyen Nyen, don't be afraid, I'm here, he said. I replied, feeling a bit nervous. After several hours of effort, I finally gave birth to a healthy baby boy. When the doctor brought the baby to me, tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at his tiny face. He's so adorable, I said. Yes, just like you, Ethan said, his eyes also a little moist. Margaret and Ethan's parents also arrived, and upon seeing the baby, they couldn't stop smiling. This child is really handsome. Margaret said, yes, just like Ethan when he was little, Ethan's mother said. We named our baby Lucinian, hoping he would always remember us and grow up to be a compassionate and responsible person. After Sinian was born, our lives became busier but also happier. Every day, looking at Sinian's adorable little face and listening to his babbling sounds, both Ethan and I feel warmth in our hearts. Ethan would spend time playing with Sinian whenever he had a chance, changing her diapers, feeding her. Truly a super dad. Look at him, he's becoming more and more like you, I said. Watching Ethan play with Sinian, my face beaming with happiness. Of course, he's my son after all, Ethan said with a smile. Margaret and Ethan's parents also frequently visited Sinian, bringing her lots of delicious food and fun toys. Sinian, come here, let Grandma hold you, Margaret said, cuddling Sinian in her arms and kissing him repeatedly. Sinian, Grandpa bought you a new toy, Ethan's father said, handing a toy car to Sinian, although Sinian couldn't speak yet. Seeing everyone treat him so well made him smile happily. As Sinian grew day by day, he became more mischievous and even more adorable. He babbles words like daddy and mommy, toddles around unsteadily, and runs everywhere with toys in hand, bringing so much joy to our lives. That day, Signing suddenly pointed at a photo and mumbled indistinctly, "Auntie." Both Ethan and I froze. That photo was an old picture of Linda. None of us expected Signing to suddenly mention her. Missing, that is. I wasn't quite sure how to put it. Ethan patted my shoulder. "It's okay, we'll tell him the truth when he grows up." I nodded, feeling a bit emotional inside. Although Linda did many wrong things, she was after all my aunt, Missing's great-aunt. I just hope that when Missing grows up, he can understand all this. When Shin-chan turned 1 year old, we threw him a lively birthday party. Relatives and friends all came, bringing Shin-chan many gifts and blessings, dressed in beautiful clothes. Shin-chan was surrounded by everyone and smiled happily. "Happy birthday, Shin-chan," I said, giving him a kiss on the cheek. "Sinian, blow out the candles quickly," Ethan said, placing a small cake in front of Sinian. Encouraged by everyone, Sinian puffed up her cheeks and blew out the candles. Everyone clapped and cheered, filling the scene with laughter and joy. Watching this happy moment before my eyes, my heart overflowed with gratitude. I thanked the heavens for allowing me to find my family, my beloved, and for having such an adorable child. I know that in the days to come, we may still face many difficulties and challenges, but as long as our family stays together, nothing can defeat us. When Cyanian was 2 years old, Ethan and I took him to the countryside to visit old Jolu. Since we last parted, we haven't seen him again. I wonder how he's doing now. Arriving at Hongchi village, the place looked much better than before. The roads were widened, and many houses had been renovated. We found old Jolu's home. He still lived in that dilapidated adobe house, though he looked even older than before. "Uncle Liu, we've come to see you," I said. Old Jolu stared at us blankly for a moment before recognizing us. "Oh, it's you. Come in, come in." We entered the house and placed the fruits and nutritional supplements we'd brought on the table. "How are you feeling?" Ethan asked. "Not bad, just more old ailments," old Jolu said, coughing a few times. "You should take better care of yourself," I said. "Ah, that's just how it is when you get old," old Jolu said, looking nostalgic. "Is this your child? So adorable." "Yes, his name is Shin-chan," I said. "Shin-chan, say hello to Grandpa." Shin-chan was a bit shy, hiding behind me and softly calling out, "Grandpa." Old Jolu stopped smiling. Good boy, good boy." We talked a lot with old Jolu, reminiscing about the old days and chatting about our current lives. "I really owe you an apology for what happened back then," old Jolu said, with a guilty expression on his face. "Uncle Liu, it's all in the past, don't dwell on it anymore," I said. "If it weren't for you, I might never have found my family." "I didn't do much," old Jolu replied. As we were talking, a familiar voice came from outside. "Old Liu, are you home?" Ethan and I exchanged glances, both finding the voice familiar. Old Jolu stood up. "It's David. He's come to see me." David walked into the room, saw us, and paused. "It's you, Brother Wang. Long time no see." I said. "Long time no see," David said. "What brings you here?" "We came to visit Uncle Liu," Ethan said. "I'm also here to see Uncle Liu," David said, placing the items in his hands on the table. We all sat down to chat. David told us that he's doing well now. Through his own hard work, he became the owner of a construction company, got married, and had children. "Congratulations to you." I said. "Thank you," David said. "It's all thanks to you guys. If I hadn't told you the truth back then, I might still be hauling bricks at a construction site now. This is all the result of your own hard work," Ethan said. "By the way, I have something to tell you," David said. "I found my brother." Both Ethan and I were stunned. "Really? Where is he?" "He's in a small town in the neighboring province, running a little store and doing all right," David said. "He knows he was wrong back then and has been feeling guilty, too afraid to come back. I talked to him for a long time before he agreed to meet with me." "Is he doing okay?" I asked. "Not bad, just much older and thinner," David said. He told me he's sorry and wants to apologize to you. I feel a bit conflicted and don't know what to say. If he truly realizes his mistake, I can forgive him, I said. Thank you, Emily, David said gratefully. My brother will definitely be very happy when he finds out. When would be a good time for us to meet? I said. I've arranged to meet him in the county town next weekend. If you're free, you can come along. David said. Okay, I nodded. After leaving old Jolu's house, Shin-chan fell asleep in the car. Watching the scenery flash by outside the window, I felt a surge of emotions. Those who once played a part in my life's journey have now found their own paths. Old Jolu is spending his twilight years peacefully in his old home. David has built his fortune through hard work, and even George has finally been given a chance to repent. What are you thinking about? Ethan held my hand. I was thinking. Time really can change so many things, I said. Yes, but some things never change, he said, looking at me with gentle eyes, like our love for you. I leaned against his shoulder, feeling warm inside. Next weekend, Ethan and I, filled with longing, followed David to a small town in the neighboring province. George's shop was located on a bustling street, selling daily necessities. When he saw us, the feather duster in his hand fell to the ground with a thud, and his face instantly turned pale. Sue, Sue, he stammered, rubbing his hands together nervously. Brother Wang, it's been a while, I said, trying to keep my tone as calm as possible. He lowered his head, his voice choked with sobs. I'm sorry, I was such a jerk back then. I shouldn't have. It's all in the past, I interrupted him. It's good that you recognize your mistakes. David patted him on the shoulder. Bro, don't blame yourself too much. Miss Sue has already forgiven you. George looked up, tears in his eyes. Thank you for forgiving me. I've regretted it every single day these years. Having nightmares every night. Live a good life from now on, Ethan said. Don't dwell on the past anymore. George nodded, turned around, and grabbed a bunch of snacks from the shelf to hand to Shin-chan. Here, kid, take these to eat. Shin-chan looked at me, and I nodded at him. He took the snacks and whispered, Thank you, Grandpa. George's tears welled up instantly. He turned his head away, his shoulders trembling uncontrollably. We sat in the shop for a while, catching up on recent events. George said he never got married and has been living a stable life running this small shop. As I was leaving, he handed me a cloth bundle. This is the money I've saved over the years. It's not much, but please take it as a small compensation from me. I pushed the bundle back. The money isn't necessary. You living well is the best compensation you could give me. He tried to insist, but David stopped him. Brother, Miss Sue is right. Your intention is what matters most. George finally relented and stood at the shop entrance, watching our car until it disappeared around the street corner. On the way back, Shin-chan held up the lollipop George gave her and asked, Mommy, why was that grandpa crying? I held her little hand and said, because he knows he did something wrong before and now he feels sad. Shouldn't we apologize when we do something wrong? Shin-chan tilted his head and asked, Yes, so we should be honest and good children, I said. He nodded with partial understanding, licked his lollipop, and smiled brightly. Looking at my son's innocent smile, I suddenly felt that all the hardships had meaning. Those who had hurt me in the past, some were punished, some chose to repent, and I, at last, could let go of the past and embrace my own happiness. In the blink of an eye, several more years passed, and Shin-chan was already in elementary school. He inherited Ethan's intelligence and my perseverance, consistently ranking at the top of his class and even serving as the class monitor. Under the management of Ethan and me, the Sue Group has flourished, becoming a benchmark enterprise in the industry. We also established a charitable foundation dedicated to helping abducted children reunite with their families and supporting children in impoverished areas to attend school. After retirement, Margaret developed a passion for square dancing, enjoying herself every day with a group of elderly friends. And her health has grown increasingly robust. Ethan's grandmother is still in good health and often knits sweaters for Shin-chan. Every time we visit, she pulls Shin-chan aside to reminisce about our childhood stories. One day, I received an unfamiliar letter with the sender's address listed as a prison. Upon opening it, I saw it was from Linda. The handwriting on the letter was shaky, clearly written with great effort. Nyan Nyan, by the time you receive this letter, I may already be gone. After all these years here, I've thought a lot and finally realized how terribly wrong I was. I shouldn't have done such heinous things for money, and I especially shouldn't have hurt you and your sister. If there's a next life, I swear to be a good person and make it up to you properly. I hope you can be happy. After reading the letter, I felt a mix of emotions. Despite how much she had hurt me in the past, seeing her like this still made me somewhat sad. I showed the letter to Margaret, who remained silent for a long time before sighing. After all, we're family. When she gets out, let her turn over a new leaf. Not long after, news came that Linda had passed away from illness in prison. Following her final wishes, we scattered her ashes into the sea, standing by the shore. Watching the waves carry away the ashes one after another, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. It's all in the past now. Ethan embraced me from behind. Yes, I nodded. I hope she finds peace in the other world. Missing held my hand and asked, Mom, did that auntie go to heaven? Yes, I said. Will she become a star then? He asked. Yes, I said with a smile. She will watch over us from heaven and bless us. Simeon nodded vaguely, pointing at the stars in the sky and saying, Then the brightest star we see from now on will be her. Right, I replied. Days passed like waves on the shore, rolling forward one after another, carrying away unhappy memories and bringing new hope. That day, the company organized a visit to an orphanage, and Ethan and I took Sin-young along. The children at the orphanage were delighted to see us and quickly gathered around. Sin-young shared her toys and snacks with them, and soon they were all playing together. Seeing the children's happy smiles reminded me of my own childhood experiences. If it weren't for the kind people who helped me back then, I might not be where I am today. We should come visit them more often. I said, Okay. Ethan nodded. Let them feel more love. After the event, a little girl tugged at my sleeve and whispered, Sister, you're so nice. I want to have a home too. My heart clenched instantly. I crouched down and hugged her, saying, You will. You'll definitely have a loving home. On the way back, I decided to do more for these children. After discussing with Ethan, we decided to fund the expansion of the orphanage and build a school, so the children could live and study in a better environment. Margaret and Ethan's families were very supportive of our decision and even offered to help. Doing something for these children is accumulating good karma, Margaret said, with everyone's efforts. The expansion project of the orphanage soon began. Watching the busy scene at the construction site, I could almost see the happy future lives of the children. Another 10 years passed. Simeon has grown into a young man and was admitted to his dream university, majoring in business management. He says he wants to take over our business in the future and carry forward the Sue Group. Ethan and Ehave gradually handed over company affairs to the younger generation, giving us more time to spend with our family. Margaret is already in her 80s but remains in good health. She still goes to the park every day to dance in the square, and sometimes cooks her signature braised pork for us. Ethan's grandmother is nearly 90. Her eyesight is a bit weak, but she's still full of energy. She often calls Simeon to ask about his life at school. Our family often travels together to see the magnificent landscapes of our country. Strolling through the ancient town of Lijiang, basking in the sun by the sea in Sonya, watching the sunrise from the mountaintop in Zhangjiaji. Everywhere we go, we take lots of photos to capture these beautiful moments. That day, our family sat in the yard drinking tea, watching the sunset slowly fade. Simeon showed us the photos he had just taken. Mom, Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, what do you think of this photo? In the photo, our family was smiling brightly, with the sky filled with sunset glow in the background. That's a great shot, Margaret said. It makes all of us look younger. Of course, just look at who took it, Sin-young said proudly. Everyone burst into laughter, filling the courtyard with joy and merriment. Looking at my family around me, my heart was overflowing with happiness. 16 years ago, I was just a country girl who got slapped at a dinner party, with no idea where my future lay. 16 years later, I have a loving husband, an outstanding son, a kind mother, and a large circle of family and friends who care about me. I've endured hardships and reaped happiness. Finally understanding what it means to have peaceful and fulfilling years, Ethan held my hand and whispered in my ear, "Nyan Nyan, meeting you is the greatest fortune of my life." Leaning on his shoulder, I smiled and said, "Me too." The setting sun stretches our shadows long and far, as if reaching all the way into the distant future. I know that as long as we are together as a family, we can bravely face any challenge that comes our way. The road ahead is still long, but I believe our lives will continue to be this happy, because love will always be there. That's the end of today's story. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. We will keep updating with more exciting stories and look forward to meeting you again next time.